the conversation.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
All right.
Good.
Yeah, so definitely welcome everybody. Hope you've been enjoying the annual legacy event so far this year. And we are excited to talk about IOH funding. We know that this sometimes is sort of like the black box. Maybe people just don't know how it works, or just a lot of uncertainty. Or anyways, we don't want it to be secret. This is our development team. I'm Aaron. I'm our CEO. We've got Spencer and Heidi. Together we are the development team, or as we prefer to call it, the fundraising as ministry team, because that is really our approach to all this. And we'll talk about that right off the bat here. But welcome. We're glad you're here. And if you have questions at any point in this, please put them in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
We have things we could talk about, but we are most interested in talking about things that interest you and helping you to feel like what's going on and are part of all this really important piece of how IOH happens. So welcome. And as I said, the fundraising as ministry phrase is really how we think about this. And that maybe is not a very familiar thing to a lot of us. For me, it was not until a few years ago, and we've grown into this mentality. But we wanted to talk some about that, just cultural approach to fundraising and how that happens at Inheritance of Hope. So one big piece of this is it's about personal relationships. We care about people, and we want to know everybody. We talk about IOH family, right? That includes donors, that includes partners.
Yeah.
All people in the IOH family we want to care about and truly know and have good relationships with. And I know we've got some examples. Heidi or Spencer, do you want to tell some stories or chime in on that idea?
Yeah, I think so. Exactly what Aaron said, personal relationships. And one piece which is actually, we do have a team IOH, which is we participate in a couple marathons. This last year was only one marathon, the Chicago Marathon. And we often do the Marine Corps Marathon each year. And it's truly the marathons, the team that we have is a small piece of our fundraising efforts each year. But within every piece, which we'll get into, within every piece here, there's really specific stories that can be shared of like these relationships and how we've gotten to know people that are working with us in development, basically. And specifically, one story I wanted to talk about was somebody, one of our family members served, who actually had signed up to run the marathon the Chicago Marathon in 2020. So he signed up in 2019, later 2019, and to run in 2020. During his training process, for anybody who might know, but training for a marathon goes on for months and months and months. And in that process, his wife was terminally ill and did pass away during that time. And then on top of that, that's sort of when COVID kind of kicked off, and the Chicago Marathon itself ended up being canceled after months of training and going through all of this with his family. And he still chose to continue fundraising for Inheritance of Hope and plan his own marathon, like literally map out his own route next to his house and like create a Facebook group where people could watch him and follow him on this route. And he raised $10,000 for Inheritance of Hope, which is a huge number. And again, this is not somebody, that was all just his community rallying around him and him really, really being committed to wanting to pass along the gift that he had gotten with his family to other families. And he's a close friend of all three of ours, in fact, and is totally a testament to what we see our fundraising as, which is personal relationships. And also on that same story, same note, he did end up running the 2021 marathon that just happened. And so he got to do the actual marathon too, and raised additional funds on top of that. So there's just one example of, like I said, what is truly a smaller part of our revenue in that team, but how big those stories can be in that small piece.
Yeah. The thing that I love about these are that we really look at our relationships with people, not as like ways that they can fundraise with us, but that is what is so unique about our approach, I think, is that these relationships that we form are formed out of like true, genuine, like deep care. And it's kind of just like this group effort that just happens with some intentionality, but there is just like the deep care just kind of like ripples out, it overflows. So yeah, I think of Holly Kitchen, you know, who we just celebrated Holly Day. That was October 13th, World Metastatic Breast Cancer Day. And Holly was a mom with breast cancer who came on a retreat, gosh, what, 2016 or something like that?
15. It was actually the same retreat my family went on.
Yeah, crazy. Okay. And then ended up having such an incredible experience and, you know, really felt part of the Inheritance of Hope family, went home and told her dear friend, Kendra Scott, about this incredible experience she had. And now Kendra, who, you know, we know her very well around the IOH family, she has certainly become part of our family, is like sponsoring retreats. And it's just the ripple effect that continues out, that started first with just a deep personal connection and a deep care that resonates out. So yeah. Oh, and then we should talk about like where we just came from last month.
Yeah. So Heidi and I specifically were in Houston last month for Halliburton Golf Tournament, which is just a big charity fundraising golf tournament that Halliburton puts on down there every year. And we received a grant from Halliburton and got to go participate in this golf tournament where Heidi and I got to man a table where all these golfers came after participating in the tournament, and got to come and see all these charities that were being supported by the tournament. Specifically, Heidi and I had it set up at our table that, for maybe the people that don't know, we set up our worry eggs, which are when you're on site real eggs, and when you're at a Hope at Home confetti eggs that we invite our families to write worries on and then smash. So Heidi and I set that up in this like little banquet room and had these golfers all come and smash a worry egg with a golf club, actually, that we brought, a small golf club. And they loved it, but it was really cool. I mean, we got to like tell that story with the worry eggs. And specifically, the reason we're bringing that up is because that was another connection that came out of a family that we served. A family we served knew somebody who worked at Halliburton, wasn't the CEO or anything like that. It wasn't like the Kendra Scott story. This was just somebody who happened to work at a normal, you know, lower level position, management position. And she connected us, helped us work through the grant process, and helped us get to a point where we had a relationship with Halliburton and were able to get this grant and able to go participate. So it's another sort of visual or idea into how like these relationships are started. And it's not something amazingly huge, or knowing the CEO of a huge company or anything like that, or having a lot of money on your own necessarily. It can be so many different ways that these relationships start.
Yeah, that's good. And I see a comment here in the chat from Bobby, who is saying, yeah, this is true. And so we served Bobby's family. It's been some years ago now, as his dad was sick. And Bobby has since volunteered many times, but he's saying, yeah, there you go. Thanks, Bobby. January 2011. So wow, over 10 years ago. But he's saying, yeah, he feels that continued sense of family, which is so encouraging to hear. And as we're saying, that's true to how we approach fundraising as well. So I think one of the things that sometimes makes people maybe just uncomfortable with the idea of fundraising is because they can feel like, you know, taking something from someone, or, you know, imposing on them, or like a sales job almost. And so we're just trying to paint the picture here of that's just not our style. You know, we are relating to people, caring about people, and those who want to and can, you know, that's a way that they're part of the IOH family, like Bobby just referenced, and helping it to be possible for more families to come into the family and have great experiences. And community is a big part of that too. So we try to care for people, you know, as individuals, get to know you as you are. At the same time, we value group relationships and community, so people don't feel isolated or alone, but part of something bigger, you know, such as our mission, right? To inspire hope in families facing the loss of a parent. And so I know we've got some notes around this too, but So it's just another part of fundraising as ministry. That's not a paradox, but community is a big part of what that looks like for us also.
Mhm. And a lot of the community that we've seen, especially in this last year, as we've developed our Hope at Home groups, has really centered around these weekly touch points, where that was like a big dream of ours for so long, to continue to have relationships with our families that we've served on these retreats. And COVID kind of pushing us into this like new way of communicating with families and serving families has been the biggest blessing ever. Because at those Hope at Home groups, community is being formed in really powerful ways. I think of one dad who was in the caregiver group, and he meets there on a weekly basis with all these other caregivers, and he's now saying, he's since lost his wife, and saying like, I still want to be a part of this group. So like this community that's existing out of this place of pain is becoming this place of like tenderness and support that's meeting weekly. And then since all of that is going on, it's just this like natural overflow of like, you have to like come in, and people want to invite others in to the community that they're experiencing. And that's just, it's a huge gift. But then what ends up happening is they tell people about these things, and it's these little, again, ripple effects that go out to say, you have to come check this out. And then someone knows someone who is saying like, I want to be a part of that. How can I support that? It's powerful.
Yeah, on the same note, and this is even something Aaron mentioned a couple minutes ago, but the asking element of the work that we do, of like, even when I talk to people, I mean, I've only been doing this for so long, but there's plenty of people who have worked in business for years and years, who tell me all the time that they're just uncomfortable asking people for money. And like, they're professionals who have been in sales for years and years, and they are uncomfortable with the idea of fundraising. And I think this mentality that we're talking about here, this fundraising as a ministry, is like just not the way those people think about it, and how we think about it, and how I try and explain it to people. And it's this mutual giving and receiving that we're doing. We don't see it as, like Aaron said, we don't see it as, hey, we're asking you or begging you to support us. We see it as inviting you in and wanting you to give, but also us to be able to give to you to receive from Inheritance of Hope. An example of that being, for this Giving Tuesday, one of our matchers, her elderly mother is very sick at the moment, and she's sharing our caregiving resources and inviting him to be a part of the Hope at Home caregiver group with her dad, who is struggling with his wife being very sick and potentially nearing death. And so again, this is something where her and her husband are going to be matchers for Giving Tuesday and give the gift to families, but she is receiving the resources herself, and being a part of the community, and inviting her dad to be a part of the community.
Yeah, that is so powerful. I love that example, because we, one of the things I think I've especially learned in the last year, I think I might have heard it from like a movie, but it's like such a great quote, is that hard things just aren't as hard when someone else is carrying the load with you. And so I think of her in that way too, of like, she's also kind of caregiving. And it's, again, this like effect of like, I'm pouring into, I'm receiving, then I'm giving out, and now he's receiving. And we're all kind of just standing up there with her, like with our hands raised with this heavy rock, saying, we got you. It really is like an honor to come alongside all of these really beautiful givers, that as they give and receive. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the story, Heidi was talking about this dad and husband whose wife died. Funding was part of that too. This family was so intentional. The mom and wife, before she died, she planned her own funeral, which is something that we help families think about and take some of the angst out of, but just to be intentional in that way. And part of what she planned was sharing about IOH and inviting people to give to IOH in her memory, because she wanted to, because they had been so cared for, felt such a part of the community, that they simply wanted to, even in that kind of moment or season, help things become possible for the next families. And one more story, at least on this, that I think of, and this actually just earlier this week, was talking to a guy who's been a donor with us for several years. And Spencer talked about Giving Tuesday, which we know is coming up. And this person has given as part of Giving Tuesday. But anyway, he worked for a hedge fund in New York. And since last Giving Tuesday, that hedge fund has disappeared. It's been wiped out. It literally does not exist anymore. So he lost his job, which, is a real gut punch. Also lost a lot of his life savings because they were wrapped up in the same fund that he worked for. So, he's been devastated. Basically, his whole life is turned upside down. And so he was saying kind of apologetically to me, I'm not going to be able to give this year. And before I could say anything else, he said, I've been praying for you guys, though, and I know this is a great mission. And so it became a really cool conversation where sometimes he has given money that now we needed to give him encouragement and a sense of community that understands hard times and going through things. And so it's just another example of that mutuality and all the different ways it can take shape. But that's what we're about, giving and receiving, caring and being cared for, including with money. We don't think of that as a taboo thing that somehow puts you in a different bucket. It's just part of how we care for IOH family. So we wanted to really get that out. That's the foundation of, we're going to talk about some dollars and numbers, and that matters here. But the foundation is the mission and our cultural way of advancing the mission. And so we really wanted to start with that, fundraising as ministry. It's not just fundraising that supports the ministry, but the fundraising itself is part of how we minister and want to inspire hope in a ripple effect, is how you said a few times. So we did want to share some of the maybe, facts and figures. Again, just want to try and help people have some clarity and sense of how all this happens. So we'll talk a little bit about where does the funding come from? It takes money to serve all these families. Where does it come from? And we were looking at the numbers recently. And so in our last fiscal year, so our fiscal year goes from October through September. Our last fiscal year, we had over $1 million from individual givers. And that is by far the biggest chunk of our giving. I think we said 54% was, just regular people in various jobs and stages of life, but individuals, families who care about the mission and have been generous. That is the number one way. Over half of our funding comes from people just like you hearing this and watching it now. So we think that's cool. Spencer has looked at this in comparison to other groups, but it's maybe a little bit unique for us.
Yeah, just a note on that number. Yeah, it is unique, at least in the nonprofit world, and you can break the nonprofit world out into all different ways. But the truth is that number 54% is in individual contributions, pretty much across the board, is very high for the nonprofit industry. And so, but that is, again, and we're going to keep going back to this, but that's the testament to the fundraising as a ministry in the community. Like, we're built on that. That's the foundation for us. It's not one big gift from here or one really rich donor here. It's really, this is the foundation for us. And even within that number, Aaron will break down a little bit some of the different streams there, but even within that number, the number of gifts that are under $5,000 or even under $1,000 that make that number up. So these are really sometimes very small gifts down into the like $10 that make that up. It's really, really lower numbers and not huge gifts that build that.
Yeah. And I think that's important because oftentimes, I know, especially even with this big Giving Tuesday goal we have coming up in front of us, sometimes you feel like, oh man, is my $10 really going to make a difference or whatnot? And it's funny. My kiddos right now are setting up like a nail salon out for the entire street to participate in, and all of the money that they make is going to go to Inheritance Folk. And they are like, oh my gosh, we're going to help you like raise your goal. And it is funny, the mindset, right? Because they think like, I'm going to give $100 and that is going to make a gigantic difference. Well, we as adults go, yes, of course, but like, you know, there's a lot more money to give. But I wish we all had that same like mindset as like a young child who opens a lemonade stand and wants it all to go to Inheritance of Hope. And all of those small things that add up, that's just like encouraging generosity and encouraging someone to join in. Then when they hear about, you know, this organization and they're telling their friends about it, it's exactly what we've been saying the whole time. It's like bringing other people into the community, even in those teeny tiny ways. They all add up and they're so impactful. I mean, so much so that, you know, 54% of our funding is coming from all these little, you know, in quotes, gifts. That's just one tiny part of it, but I think it's sweet and precious to remember that the small gifts matter so much.
I can tell you, because I was on the phone with Heidi when Heidi's youngest daughter, Hannah, was very excited to tell me about their fundraising, their nail salon. And she really was. She was so excited about it. And it's infectious for Heidi and I too. I mean, like me hearing her tell me about it is like, cool. That's how I want to talk to people about fundraising.
Yeah.
You know, she's really excited about it. It like, and even, sorry, one thing that I thought of while you're talking to Heidi is, Aaron, you mentioned, you know, with some of our connections where people sometimes have different capacities and different times to different years of their lives. And I think sometimes people think, oh, okay, well, I was able to give this, or I was able to make this connection that was really big for Inheritance of Hope, but I can't do that, so I can't really help this year. But the truth is, because it goes all the way down to $1 really of like the impact that you can have, that it's not that you can't in a year. It's totally like, it matters whatever the amount is. It really does. It takes so many gifts to build 54, our foundation, 54% takes a lot.
Yeah.
There are a lot of parts there, including lots of creative things, which you guys have touched on. There are some really creative fundraisers out there. You talked about doing confetti eggs at a golf tournament. I mean, that's super creative. That's just one example of somebody. The lemonade stand. We've had somebody, you know, do dance recitals and on and on. You know, just very creative ideas, and that's awesome. That's part of it. That's how we get to where we need to get to serve more families. You know, we do have some major donors, as Spencer talked about, Giving Tuesday matches, and that's really cool because again, it's not just that they're giving money, but they're part of the community in a way that's letting other people have multiplied impacts and you know, advance the mission. So we appreciate those major gifts, and we try to get, you know, even multiplied value out of them when that's something that somebody's in a position to do. Our board is certainly generous. We're grateful for them and how they are part of our fundraising as ministry. Volunteers is a big piece. And this is one where maybe certainly our volunteers know this, but maybe other people in the IOH world. Well, for one, we have over 300, right? Volunteers, serving team, lots of different ways people can serve. Over 300 people who, you know, give of their time, which is already a generous way to give to the mission. But I don't know that too many people realize our volunteers also fundraise. You know, so not only are they taking time off of work or away from family, you know, they are also raising funds so that they can give of their time and serve families. And they do that with on-site retreats. They do that with Hope at Home groups, with Giving Tuesday pages. And I see Bobby, what great timing. And what is the best way to share a Giving Tuesday page? LinkedIn, Instagram? Yes, and yes, absolutely. So this is another thing our volunteers do. Giving Tuesday coming up, you know, is not just giving personally, but inviting other people to be excited about the mission. And it sounds like Bobby has his Giving Tuesday page, but if anybody else is listening or watching, if you just email Heidi, you know, it'd be real easy to set up a page for you, and then you just have to share it. That could be LinkedIn, that could be Instagram, that could be Facebook, that could be email if you're, you know, old school technology. Um, but yeah, it's just a simple thing to use these great networks that are out there. And our volunteers do that. So that's what I was getting at is, people who give up their time also are part of this. It's just, again, genuine care for the mission. And that's really, really powerful. Families served also give. I'm not sure, to what extent maybe this is known out there. But we want a lot of people to know that, families do not have to pay for anything that we offer. Everything is a gift to them. Yet many of them choose to give. Many of them want other families to have what they have. And so we love when that happens. We're so grateful, and it does make it possible for more families to participate. And so that's just another part of that $1 million of individual giving is people paying it forward after they had a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And one more piece here is what we call builders, legacy builders. And, Spencer really has been our main point person here. We all love builders, but I'm going to let Spencer kind of give more of the info there.
Yeah, so legacy builders are recurring givers. Specifically, everybody in our legacy builder community is a monthly giver. And we really only in the last year put a lot of emphasis on this program. It's been around for a long time. People have been able to do this for a long time, but even we in development myself included, didn't really realize how much value there was in this community and in this form of giving. And to sort of put a little bit of perspective on it out of the gate, as far as the industry goes and as far as the idea of recurring giving goes, baseline is that these gifts have up to 5 times the impact of any one-time gift that is the same amount. A lot of things go into why that is the case, but that is the bottom line, is that the impact is way bigger for these gifts. And some of the reasons, so like I said, there are a lot of reasons why that is the case, but some of those reasons include it's a really predictable revenue stream for us as we work to serve more families. So obviously, anybody who wants to give to Inheritance of Hope, their number one priority is, or what they care about most, is families being served and us serving families. And when we have more predictable revenue, it makes it so much easier for us to focus on that, focus more of our energy on that. So that's one big piece of why the impact is so much higher. And then one other thing that I wanted to share too was, as we've sort of shifted a little bit of focus to really promote this program and invite people to be a part of this community specifically, is that we believe in this program so much, in this form of giving, that 100% of our staff members are legacy builders. So, I mean, we've all always given to Inheritance of Hope, but even then we're that bought in that we all give monthly to Inheritance of Hope directly. So there's another, just example of how bought in we are and why we believe in this. That community has grown a lot in the last year, to the point that there's over 100 people now in that community. When we started 2 years ago, there was like maybe 30. And we want it to continue to grow and maybe be, doubled every year, if not much, much more than that. Because like I said, this is, I think, and I think Aaron and Heidi agree with me, this is arguably the highest impact form of giving that you can have as an individual.
Yeah, builders are awesome. As you said, the consistency is just so valuable. So even if you were thinking, hey, maybe this year I'm going to give X dollars, if you just said X divided by 12 and set it up that way, it's more impactful, as Spencer was saying, because we can plan on it and we can know what's coming, and therefore serve families with a better anticipation of the resource that'll be available. I see we've got some new attendees, so if you're coming in later, we're welcoming questions all the way through. We can talk, but again, we want to hear your questions, thoughts, and be interactive with you. So Patrick Farmer, I see you there. Feel free to hop in that chat anytime, and we'll be as responsive as we can. So where does the funding come from? We've really been talking about these individual gifts because that's the biggest part. And in so many ways, it really affirms the fundraising as ministry mentality, that all of these people totally voluntarily, want this mission to go forward. Now, we do have a couple of other chunks. We get some grants. That's about 18% of our funding has come from grants, at least in the last fiscal year. We have some corporate partners. Kendra Scott, we've talked about a little bit. She's certainly one of the main ones. That's about 20% of our revenue last year. We do have an endowment, and that gives a modest disbursement every year, so that it creates perpetual funding for operations as a small percentage right now. But if you're somebody that's interested in or thinking about, plan giving, gifts in your will or estate, or gifts of stock, bigger chunks of things that you want to have lasting impact, the endowment is a really good option there, because year by year it'll generate some interest and keep funding more families. So those are 20% corporate, 18% grants, very small percentage endowment, and like we've been saying, the rest is individual. So that's a huge piece. Just a couple of notes, where money maybe doesn't come from, which again is just, we're trying to be clear and help people get a sense of how this works. So we can all keep it working better. Many people assume or just think that maybe a lot of churches support IOH. And we do have some churches, and we are certainly grateful for their partnership, but it's far fewer than I think most people assume. Again, mostly it's individuals. So we welcome church partnerships, and if you're part of a church that has a missions committee or missions budget, we're all for that. It just maybe is surprising to some people that's just not, at least currently, one of the bigger chunks. Maybe that's opportunity for us to grow in the future as some good partnerships there for fundraising as ministry with churches that have that same mindset. All right, so where does it all go? We're fundraising, people are being generous. How do we use the money? This is something that all nonprofits have to report on in audits every year. There's statistics that have to be shared about how much goes to program, how much goes to what they call administrative costs, how much goes to fundraising. And those numbers in our last year program, it was 86.8%. So, the vast majority, very directly used for mission, for family benefit. We had 9.8% on admin, and that's stuff like accounting, supplies, all the back office things that have to happen for any organization to run, and 3.4% on fundraising. I guess we're tooting our own horn a little bit here, but those are great numbers. And you can look on any organization's website; they will have this somewhere in their annual report or their federal 990 forms. But
we encourage you to, because we're confident in those numbers. We know those are good numbers. You should go out and compare it.
Yeah, and so again, we keep coming back to the fundraising as ministry and the culture that supports the mission. But this is how, and we don't have to spend a ton on fundraising because people want to give. Because we're building the community and people want to be generous. So, we have these great ratios, which then helps us invite new people in. Say, hey, we're going to use your gift well. We are really going to steward it, and that's kind of the old school term and the accounting term. But yeah, it's going to go to what you want to go to. It's going to go to families. It's going to go to the mission. You guys have any other chime-ins there on the where idea?
No, I just think it's like a blessing that, we all work from home. I think that's also surprising to some people. I think they think, we have an office somewhere, but all of us are spread all across the country working, from my kitchen island, that kind of a thing. And so I think that also just helps with our overhead and costs, that we're not all together, though we wish we could be.
It makes it hard to answer the "where are you based" question.
It does.
Well, kind of the country is the answer to that. The whole country.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Heidi. I think we take that for granted. Even now we're in 3 different states, and having this conversation with you all. I'm in my basement, right? I'm the CEO. I'm in my basement. I'm working here because it works well and
Yeah.
because it lets us put money where we want it to go.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge point, Heidi, that, yeah, we have extremely low overhead so that generosity goes to the families. And that's how we want it to be. So I'm glad you highlighted that for sure. See, Patrick has chimed in here with a chat. How do we get materials to help us explain IOH to people? Oh, that's a good question. Love that question.
The first thing I would say to answer that question would be a lot of the digital materials, the videos and the things that exist on our website. And even a lot of the time, like in our email signature, we put all that stuff there because we want you to just grab it and share it. Especially in today's world, that stuff really has the highest impact for people.
Mhm.
People pay a lot more attention to that than, paper materials or flyers or things like that. We have those things too, and are happy to send you physical materials, anything you want. I mean, we have one pagers, flyers, pamphlets, all kinds of stuff. We're happy to send you a box of that stuff if that's what you're looking for. But again, I would say a lot of the digital materials that we have are the most effective.
Yeah,
the
and
digital
Aaron,
stuff is great. Oh, go ahead, Heidi. You saw it.
no, I was just going to say, you threw in there the Hope at Home app, which is also just like a really perfect spot to connect people. That has a ton of our resources. So if it is a family to be served, we want them to go there. We want them to, even before we get a chance to serve them at a Hope at Home group or a Hope at Home weekend or a legacy retreat, whatever it is, the app is already at their fingertips. So that is definitely a good place to start for yourself and for anyone you want to invite into the family. Yeah, what were you going to say, Aaron?
I was going to say that. And Spencer referenced the digital materials, and the app is definitely where they are. It's a free download. So whatever somebody's interest might be, they could explore that. And you can start having more conversation. Patrick, I also just put in the chat here, this is a blog post. And the reason I shared it is because in that post, I'm trying to sort of give an overview, some of where IOH has come from, but especially where we're trying to go. And toward the end of that blog post, there's a video that's very short, maybe 15 or 20 seconds, but it kind of tells the story, if you will. There's some graphics that tell the story, some sort of talking points, bullet points. So within that post, there's some things that could be useful, at least, in kind of helping people start to get a feel for, what we're about and how they could be part of it.
And one other piece I want to add to that is I shouldn't have said that the digital materials are the best, because I actually think the best place they can get that information is from you, Patrick, or whoever it is, that person. We were talking about it, share an invite, like tell your story, tell why you care, tell how you're involved. The people that they know you, so they care about you. So when you contextualize IOH through that, that's how they're going to care the most.
Yeah, we talk about often, we talk so much, like if you eat at a place that you love, do you come back and you tell everyone, you got to try this restaurant, it's so good. That's kind of like the mentality that we have really, as we want people to do the same with Inheritance of Hope. Like, I volunteer for this amazing organization, come be a part. That is definitely how we all operate. Spencer pointed out yesterday to me, he's like, we have a lot of legacy builders because they're like neighbors on your street. And I'm like, I know, because I can't stop talking about it, and they want to be a part of that too. It's contagious. The more you tell your story, the more people want to be a part of what you're a part of. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so these are all, I love the question, Patrick, for sure. I mean, we love when people tell the story. That's the perfect thing to do. Oh, and we've given you some general thoughts. If you have a certain person or case in mind, that we can definitely be more tailored and strategic too about, what will connect well with them. So, email us, text us, and for any particular situations, we're glad to consider that with a little more detail. We got to watch our time here. So let's talk a little bit where we've been, where we're going. That blog post in the chat does that with a little more detail maybe, but we want to keep telling the story because we want Patrick to tell the story when he gets off of this call too. And we want everybody watching this to tell the story, especially in the Giving Tuesday and the opportunity that is to launch a great year. So in fiscal 2020, just some numbers here, we served 652 times. So we've got different ways we do that, as we've talked about, open home groups, legacy retreats, this event. But 652 times that a family member was served by IOH, and that was a record. That was quite a bit more than any prior year. In our fiscal 2021, which we just wrapped up, we delivered 2,615 services. So yes, 4 times more, fourfold increase in services delivered in that 1 year. And that's a year, there was COVID, there was pandemic, all sorts of things were uncertain. But I think we're rightly proud of that. We're very grateful for that, but we also are excited about what that means, and truly the ability that we have to reach more families that need inheritance of hope through this innovative range of offerings. You could live somewhere, you could be on a computer, you could do it once, you could do it every week. We want to meet families where they are increasingly, so they can have great IOH community. So in the 2020, with the 652 services, we had 1.78 million in revenue. And in fiscal 2021, with that big jump in services, our revenue increased to 1.91 million. And so again, we saw upturns. We saw a positive trajectory through COVID, through pandemic. And that's a testament to all of you, again, the fundraising as ministry, the individuals who care, and didn't see COVID as a thing like, oh, I guess we need to hit pause. Guess we better dial it back. But you know what? Families need this more than ever. We're going to find ways to make it happen programmatically and financially. And we did. And so grateful to be part of a team, that's the mentality.
Yeah.
Yes, things are hard, but we see opportunity in the hard stuff. And that's what we tell IOH families all the time. Nobody wants a terminal diagnosis, but when that happens, let's make the most of it. Let's be intentional. Let's see ways that hope can come about, even through that. Our whole organization has that mentality, and we've lived into it, I think, just incredibly well in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, let me just say this too. Spencer and I were in Texas at this Halliburton tournament when there were over 30 charities there. And as we were sitting around talking with everyone, one of the hot topics was like, what did COVID do to your charity? Kind of a thing. And it was shocking to us that almost every single charity there was saying, well, yeah, we stopped. Like we couldn't do anything, or yeah, we really just had to press pause until things could turn around. Yeah, they were like just starting to like edge their way back in, and we were like, wow. I think we do this day in and day out, so it wasn't something that we didn't know that we needed to be like, I don't know, I guess proud of, but it really was like a proud moment to say, like, not only did we not press pause, we quadrupled our impact in the last year. And we actually have COVID to thank for that like big push. But we shifted in dramatic ways that allows us to serve so many more families. That's incredible. That is definitely out of the ordinary. And yeah, I would, echo you. Like, we feel really grateful and proud to work for an organization that has done such a thing.
And it always means that too. Like I mentioned with the legacy builders, the thing that we care about most and donors care about most is serving families. But the truth is, whenever you see that number, that record number of families served, or 4 times our previous record, obviously in that, we're also saying that was a record revenue year for us too. And those are always going to be interchangeable things, and vice versa. So, it took a record revenue year in 2020 during COVID for us to do record families too. So both pieces.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've talked about fundraising as ministry, the culture, all flowing from the mission. That's the foundation. Talked about some numbers, some facts and figures. kind of where we've been and how exciting that is. We've got a few minutes left. We want to talk about, all right, what's next? Where are we going? Always want to be looking forward, celebrating what has happened, but we can't be complacent. Because one of the stats, one of the stories to tell, if you will, is that 1 in 20 children will lose a parent before turning 16.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, that's just so many kids, so many families. And we want all of them eventually to be have IOH available. So there's a big group of people that need this, and we want more of them to have it. And yeah, I see your comment, Patrick. Thank you. The team was creative, and you're part of that team, and we're grateful for how you jumped in as part of that. So where we're going, it's November. Giving Tuesday is coming up. Then there's December and year-end giving. It's another one of those things that people maybe just don't know, but we get almost half of our revenue in the months of October through December. So that's not half of the year, obviously, but it is a fraction of the year where half of our revenue happens. So other times of the year just happen to be slower. Giving is not the same every month. So we're coming into a season right now where, generosity in these 3 months will have a lot to say about what families are able to experience for the whole next year. So it's a really key time, and that's why we have Giving Tuesday. That's why I make a big deal out of that. And I'm going to screen share here. This is one of those things that can help tell the story. You guys see on my screen at this point? Okay. Yeah, so this is what we want to do in the next year, 2022. We want families to have these things. We want hundreds of people to enjoy groups every month, which really means every week, because they meet each week of the month. We're going to resume our on-site legacy retreats, and we want 100 families to have that experience. 150 families to have the Hope at Home weekend experience. This event that we're enjoying right now, we want to do it again. And we want more people to know about it and enjoy it next year. And the resources. So this kind of comes back to Patrick's question. How can we help more people know about IOH and get an understanding of it? Basically, we just need a bigger audience. We have good materials, we have good resources, but we need and want more people to receive them, to know about them, to have them accessible. And so Bobby had talked about sharing on social media. Yeah, let's grow the audience there. We've talked about the Hope at Home app. Let's grow the audience there. It's partly just a matter of increasing awareness of what is already available. And that's really what this corner is about. So this is going to be a great year. We just came off our best year yet. This will be the next best year yet. And Giving Tuesday, you can see it here, is just a huge part of it. And we've had some people be really generous already, make matching commitments. So we're very excited to say, hey, gifts are matched. And not just on Giving Tuesday. So this is a new thing, even for those who've been around a while. Giving Tuesday is now. Sure, there's a day called Giving Tuesday. There's also a day called Black Friday. And we all know Black Friday is not just a day. It's about the deals, and the deals are already happening. Same with Giving Tuesday. It's about generosity. It's about double the impact. And guess what? For us, it's already happening. There's no need to wait. If you have a page or want to give truly now, through the particular date of Giving Tuesday, double impact. And you can see a goal down here, $572,000. We realize that's a lot of money. That's a lot of great things for families. And so that's what it comes from. It's the mission, it's the impact. Here's what we need to do it. So I just want to share that with everybody as we look ahead and as we think about fundraising as ministry. This is the ministry we want to happen. And however you can be part of it, you're invited, to make this reality, to make it really that kind of year for all these families. Stop my screen share. So I don't know if we have a Giving Tuesday link we could put in the chat just while we're on that topic. Maybe one of you can get that. Kind of watching our time for the attendees here, questions, anything maybe you've been wondering about or is not as clear as it could be. or maybe some creative idea as we think about fundraising as ministry. Just give a second and see anything else we might want to respond to. Okay, so maybe we covered it for now. Maybe we were very clear.
So good.
You guys know how to reach out to us for sure, and we welcome the conversations always. I think we covered most of what we wanted to as the time gets away from us. Heidi, Spencer, what else as we kind of wrap it up?
Yeah, I think I would just add that, we can't take away someone's terminal illness. We can't provide some cure. We can't do any of those things, but we can give hope, and we can give resources, and we can give a community of care that gets it. And when we don't have funding, that stinks. But we do have very generous people who get to be a part of our family, who get to, have that mutual giving and receiving. And it's just exciting. It's exciting to be a part of. Giving Tuesday is my very favorite day of the year because it's this like family reunion. It feels like, of everyone saying, me too, like I'm in it with you. I want to help give hope as well. And it's just exciting to be a part of. It's such a sweet, sweet day. Even all these many days leading up to Giving Tuesday, it is so fun. Yeah, that season is a fun thing because even now the excitement is like building as people are making their pages and sharing and inviting others in. It is such a joy, and it is so fun to be on this side of things and give and receive right alongside all of our donors. So.
And yeah, just adding to that, I want to quickly go back to the stories that we told at the beginning, where we could keep telling you those. This whole session could have just been us telling those stories, those personal relationships, and the incredibly never-ending list of ways that people have helped us or become involved in this community and helped Inheritance of Hope grow. So there's a way you can help. We try and make as many available as possible, but like I said, the list is so long, we can't usually list them all out. But there's a way that you can help, and way you can help Inheritance grow, reach more families, and a way we can help you in making you a part of our community. So we want that.
Yeah, so again, just thanks everybody. We are grateful for your interest here and jumping in or watching it later. For everybody, we are so glad that you care about the mission. That's first and foremost. Thank you for caring about the mission, and thank you for being part of it in truly whatever way you can. Sharing the story, being generous, inviting others in. It takes a full team effort, and we're just grateful for how each of you makes it possible for families. So thanks so much. Hope you enjoy the rest of the weekend, and we'll be seeing you. Thanks all.